Hello champions and happy Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about how to multiply by powers of 10. Work your hardest. You have 17 days left until the leap. Let's do this. I know you can do it, and so does Mr. Smiles. Let's start with a do now question. Write 25 and 600ths in standard form. Which of these shows 25 and 600ths written in standard form? Well, remember that 25 would be before the decimal, and shows me where to place my decimal point. 600ths means I need 6 after the decimal, ending in the hundredths place. The answer is 25.06. Write 107 and 5 thousandths in standard form. Well, I know that 107 would be before the decimal, and 5 thousandths would be after the decimal. I would need 2 zeros to place the 5 in the thousandths place. Now let's write 23 and 807 thousandths in expanded form. Well, 2 is in the tens place, so 2 times 10. 3 is in the ones place, so plus 3 times 1. 8 is in the tenths place, plus 8 times 1 tenth. 7 is in the thousandths place, so plus 7 times 1 over 1,000. 2 times 10 plus 3 times 1 plus 8 times 1 tenth plus 7 times 1 over 1,000 is the correct expanded form. Now let's write 302 and 58 thousandths in expanded form. Well, 3 is in the hundredths place, 2 is in the ones place, 5 is in the hundredths place, and 8 is in the thousandths place. Yesterday, in my class, we talked about how to write the relative value of digits based on their place value. Let's do two problems together. The 6 in 126 and 42 thousandths is worth how many times as much as the 6 in 647 and 5 tenths? The first thing I need to do is line these numbers up. 126 and 42 hundredths, 647 and 5 tenths. I can make sure I line up the decimal place. Look at that bottom 6. What place is the bottom 6 in? It's in the hundreds place. What place is the top 6 in? It's in the ones place. To go from the hundreds place to the ones place, do you increase or decrease in value? You decrease. How many places did the 6 decrease? Well, 1, 2. Decrease 2 places. Each time you decrease, you multiply by 1/10. So, which statement correctly shows how many times as much the 6 is worth compared to the second 6? It's worth 1/100th as much. Now you try one. The 3 in 476 and 31 hundredths is worth how many times the 3 in 15 and 613 thousandths? Make sure you line up your decimal points. A 3 in the tenths place is 2 places larger than a 3 in the thousandths place, so it is worth 100 times as much. Now let's jump into today's objective, multiplying by powers of 10. Remember that every time you multiply 10, you increase one place value. The easiest way to show an increase in place value is to move the decimal to the right. So if I multiply 2 and 5 tenths times 10, that means that each digit is increasing one place. So I can show the decimal moving one time to the right. 2 and 5 tenths times 10 is 25. If I multiply 2 and 5 tenths times 100, that means that each digit is moving 2 place values larger. So that 2 is going to move from the ones place to the hundreds place. The easiest way to show that is to move the decimal once, twice to the right, and fill in zeros anywhere I can. So now my answer is 250 with the decimal after. If I do 2 and 5/10 times 1,000, how many places do I need to increase? Well, 1,000 is 10 to the third power, so I need to increase 3 places. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 2,500. And finally, if I do 2 and 5/10 times 10,000, how many places do I need to increase? Well, I would need to increase 4 places because 10,000 is 10 to the fourth power. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer is 25,000. I can check to see, is my 2 4 places greater than it started? Now you try a few. To multiply 6 and 724 thousandths times 10 to the first power, how many times would I need to move the decimal to the right? I would need to move it 1 time. So I'm going to move the decimal once to the right. What is my result? It's 67 and 24 hundredths. To multiply 6 and 724 thousandths times 10 to the second power, how many times would I need to move the decimal? I would need to move it 2 times. Once, twice. So what's my result? It's 672 and 4/10. To multiply 6 and 724 thousandths times 10 to the third power, how many times would I need to move the decimal to the right? I would need to move it 3 times to increase place value 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. What's the result? It's 6,724. To multiply by 10 to the fourth power, how many times would I need to move the decimal to the right? I would need to move it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer would be 67,240. Now you try a few. What's 3 and 57 hundredths times 10? First, how many times will I need to move the decimal? I'll need to move the decimal 1 time. What will be the result? Well, when I move the decimal 1 time, the answer is 35 and 7/10. 4 and 25 hundredths times 1,000. How many times will I need to move the decimal? I'll need to move it 3 times. What will be the result? Well, 1, 2, 3. I need to fill in 1 0. The answer is 4,250. Now you try one. What's 2 and 894 thousandths times 100? Well, I would need to move the decimal once, twice to the right, so the answer is 289 and 4/10. What's 37 and 2/10 times 10 to the second power? Well, I would need to move the decimal twice to the right, once, twice, so the answer would be 3,720. What's 15 and 8/10 times 10 to the third power? Well, I would need to move the decimal 3 times to the right, so 1, 2, 3, 15,800. What's 1 and 67 hundredths times 10 to the first power? Well, I would need to move the decimal once to the right, so 16 and 7/10. You've done a great job on this video. Now it's time to get on IXL skill I.2. Multiply a decimal by a power of 10.